the people. So if he could come forward, Anthony Tate.
We have something for you. I understand, having done these speeches, that it's best to take out the #1 heckler. Stick that on. If you have anything inane to say, you can now say it. So, is that it? So, although I've had a number of these books out, I see that there are several new faces here tonight, and I had a few worried calls over the last few days about what the drill is at a book launch. You know, what should you wear? Who's going to be there? Will you have to pay for the drinks? The answer is no. The drinks are on the house, but I do hope you have your money because the book's cheap, but you know, you're going to have to pay for it. A number of people are also slightly concerned about what the sort of format is. Just relax. You are in very safe hands. We have a professional reader here tonight. He's going to read the story. Now, some of these book launch virgins have been asking me, what is the correct number of books to buy? It's normally 3. That is one obviously for you and one for your mates. And
some of the backlog.
Yes, well done. Yes. Saucy monkey. But I should also mention that we full box set, also known as the family pack, is also very popular. And with Easter coming up in just a few days, it could be the perfect present for Granny. Now, with the full box set, there is hopefully something in it for everyone. But if you are giving these books to Granny, possibly leave the Dave Cameron one to last, because there is an immense amount of wanking in it. Now, at my last book launch, it was suggested to me by a very dear friend who I respect immensely, Simon Scott. He said, Bill, you should get more serious. If you want big sales, you want to lose the jokes, get tough. And I thought maybe he was right, because the last book, actually, there were 500,000 dead people in it. But the problem is that I don't really do serious stuff, and I kind of like the humour. And so I was wondering if there was a third way, a sort of Tony Blair style third way. And I think there is. Simon Scott, he ain't here. NFI. And that's what happens to anyone who tells me what I don't want to hear. Now, I know that a lot of authors say this about their wives, but I promise you, this book genuinely would not have been written if it were not for Margot. Because 1 year ago, the title was actually rather different. It was actually going to be King Harry the Ninth, and the contract was all signed, and it was going to be the estate of Harry and William. We're assuming that William's dead, Harry comes to the throne. And anyway, Margot said, well, that's great, it sounds really funny, except I'm hoping to do great stuff at Buckingham Palace, and so could you kindly not do it? Also, it was going to jigger my peerage. So we didn't do it, but then I always thought that the whole King Harry thing, I mean, the timing was just dire. Seriously, when was this book going to come out? Friday, April the 29th. I'm not joking. I'd also like to thank Margot for helping stage this event here. Well, it's easily the best event we've had, and certainly the most profitable. Tom, my publisher, it has to be the best book yet. And coincidentally, it is the first book which Tom has not personally edited. I'd also like to thank Tim Bremner. He's done a cracking job with the cover. And they often say, you know, judge the book by the cover, and I don't know, maybe it might be okay, this one. We will see. A number of you have been extremely concerned about whether I'm going to be sued for this one. How come it's not completely libelous to be writing all this stuff about Simon Cowell and fabricating all these quotes? How come he won't take you to the cleaners? Well, the truth is that I would not recommend that any of you do it, mere amateurs, but I have been doing it for 6 years on the side. I know my onions. But we did go to the libel lawyers. We discussed it in great detail with them, and finally I took their advice. And as of last week, the house is now solely in Margot's name. Tommy, I do not know what your plans are for bankruptcy, but good luck with it. Now, we are coming on to the crux of the book. I could tell you about it, but actually I have my plucky little reader here. And I tell you, one of the more inspired things that I did with Dave Cameron's School Days, the sort of prequel to this one, was I needed a character for a mad housemaster. And normally, us writers, we take our friends. And then I thought, no, I'm not just going to take a friend, I'm going to give him the same name. This is Tim Maguire, but in the mad housemaster in Dave Cameron's School Days, it's called Tam Maguire. And anyway, so that was that, and then I started writing the Cowell book. And then suddenly, this wonderful moment, about 10th way through, I'm going to bring Tam back. Madder and more red-eyed than ever. Now, the advantage about Tam is that Tam has a number of voices that he can do. He can do pretty much any voice you want. So, Stephen Hawking, say. What would you do? Give us a version of Stephen Hawking.
I think that's a really bad idea.
Very good. Okay, we're now going to try the reading. And generally, when I start channeling Tim Maguire, I imagine him in the Doric. That is the Aberdonian accent. So if we could have Tam Maguire, the mad Tam Maguire, in the Doric. Thank you.
Before I begin, I have to say that Bill just showed me the book, and I'm deeply touched that not only does my character occur in 2 of his novels, but actually he's dedicated it to me and to my alter ego, Tam Maguire. So I am touched, and you are clearly very touched. So here we go. Bald he was, bold as an egg, and entirely ageless. He stared at me with those dead fish eyes, and this wry little smile playing on his lips. The others, still screaming and guffawing, he just gave me the slightest nod as if to say, I see you. And even then, although I'd only just set eyes on him, I knew that this man was trouble. Maguire stretched out a lean, dry hand. Mr. Cowell, he said, very formal. How do you do? Hi, Tim, I said. No, not Tim, Mr. Cowell, he said. My name is Tam Maguire, but you may call me Maguire, as do most of my friends and all of my enemies. He smiled at me, a mouth full of the most brilliant white teeth that I had ever seen. Even Tom Cruise would have been envious. Oh, I said, and do you have many enemies? Enemies, he said. Enemies, Mr. Cowell. Then he said the very strangest thing, a phrase I had never heard uttered by anyone else on the planet. Now, I don't know how Maguire had come by this phrase, but he loved it dearly, and he would use it in all manner of ways. Sometimes it was spoken softly, barely more than a lover's whisper. Sometimes it was shouted as a form of the most manic abuse. He would use it as an interrogatory, as he stretched you on the rack. And sometimes, as in this case, he used it for the most ribald mockery. Hoo, 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 Maguire said. Do I have many enemies? Hoo, hoo, hoo. I stared at him, utterly mesmerised. Even old motormouth Piers Morgan was taking a back seat. Yes, I have many enemies, Mr. Cowell, Maguire said, his hand tight upon my elbow. I live for my enemies. Who wants friends? Who needs friends? Fickle friends that will fall by the wayside whenever you're in time of need. They're not friends, but fiends. Hoo. But an enemy is forever, Mr. Cowell. An enemy is to be tended and is to be watched over until the day, the great day, when you pay them back. And then they will rue the day they ever knew the Maguire of Maguire. I goggled. Was the man quite mad? Now, I'm certainly one to nurse a grievance, but Maguire seemed to have turned this age-old art into a lifelong passion. That's nice, I said. What else was I going to say? Asked the man how long it had been since he escaped from Broadmoor. No, I wonder what you'll be to me, Mr. Cowell, said Maguire. Not my friend, I can see that. But will you be my enemy? Will I wish it that I have the chance to smash my fist into your pampered mouth, that I can knock every one of your glinting teeth down your throat from whence they came? Will I nightly thirst for vengeance? Will I yearn to tear your limbs from limb, one by one from your body, until I feed your head to the dogs? Will it be my most heartfelt desire to trample upon your grave and then befoul your gravestone? Steady on now, fellow. Perhaps a little strong for a first meeting? I'm sure there won't be any call for that, I said. I'm a very amenable kind of guy. Hoo, Mr. Cowell, he cried. Hoo. That is what they all say. Mr. Cowell, that is what they all say, but I come to hate them all the same. But then, what else could you expect? For though you know nothing about me, Mr. Cowell, I should warn you now, that I have the most fearsome temper. Oh yes, when I am vexed, my wrath is both great and terrible to behold. Oh really? I said in my most pleasant cocktail party mode. Anything else one ought to know? Hoo, he cries again. Quite the cocksure party animal, aren't you, Mr. Cowell? I've known many like you, and there's not a man among them who I've not come to loathe with every fibre of my being. Well, is there anything you need else to know about me? Well, not necessarily, but perhaps, now that I think on it, perhaps there is. I pride myself on my volcanic temper, but you should also be aware, Mr. Cowell, that I have the most incredibly short fuse. It does not take much, Mr. Cowell, not much at all, to send me into the pit. And once I am there, my anger must be sated to the last drop. Piers and the camera crew, they all stood there, rather like you are, hanging on his every word. And as for Maguire himself, he smiled again before cupping his hands together in a salaam. I live for hate, he said. I thirst for it. 'Tis what keeps me alive. 'Tis my meat. 'Tis my drink. 'Tis the very balm to my soul.
I take it all talk.